Today on CityCast Nashville, it's time for our Friday News Roundup. We always like to end the week with the biggest news stories in town and break them down for you with journalists, comedians, and anybody else we can convince to come on the show. Today, I'm joined by Nashville Scene columnist and CityCast Nashville contributor Nicole Williams and our beloved executive producer, Whitney Pasterek. With Election Day right around the corner this Tuesday, November 5th, Whitney's going to show off her talent of giving us a quick rundown of what's on that ballot. Nicole will bring her expertise about Metro Council, and I'll be reading some responses from our Hey Nashville newsletter readers on why or why not they plan to vote. CityCast Nashville is presented by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tecovas. It's Friday, November 1st. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Nicole, we have missed you oh so much. Welcome back.
It's great to be back.
So something really big is coming up next week. What is it? Oh, yes, the election. The election is on Tuesday, November 5th. If you weren't able to vote early, we at CityCast Nashville really hope that you do go and head to the polls on Tuesday, cast your vote, make your voice heard. We want to give you a very, very, very quick ballot rundown, but I want to do it differently.
Okay.
Because so many other places have been covering this. I want to pretend with me, everybody, that we're at our school's talent show and little Whitney Pasterek is coming to the stage.
Oh, God. Are you going to make me tap dance while I do this?
Oh, my gosh. Could you?
No.
Actually, we could just tell them you are tap dancing.
Okay, that's true. They'll never know. I am dressed like Shirley Temple, and I am tap dancing.
Yay, everybody. Welcome to the stage, Whitney Pasterek, whose impressive talent is rapid fire ballot summary. And I'm going to time her. I'm going to get my stopwatch out. On your mark. Get set. Go.
Good morning, everybody. On November 5th, if you have not already voted, that will be your last day to vote in the state and federal general election, the Belle Meade, Forest Hills, and Goodlettsville municipal elections, and for or against the Transit Improvement Program referendum election. For President and Vice President of the United States, your Republican choices are Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance. Your Democratic Party choices are Vice President Kamala D. Harris and Tim Walz. And then there are some other people, many of whom you've never heard of, one of whom once carried a dead bear carcass across New York City and dumped it in Central Park after eating a steak dinner at Peter Luger. For United States Senate, your choices are Marsha Blackburn, the incumbent representing the Republican Party, Gloria Johnson, a current Tennessee State House representative who is running for the Democratic Party, and then three other independent candidates. For the United States House of Representatives District 5, although there are many people in the race, your choices are basically incumbent Republican Andy Ogles or Democratic Party nominee, nonprofit leader Miriam Abel-Fazli. In Tennessee 6, your choices are the incumbent Republican John Rose, he's the Republican Party nominee, and Lori Bergman, a local disability advocate who is running as the Democratic Party nominee. In District 7, you've got the incumbent Mark Green, he's the Republican Party nominee, and then you've got former Nashville Mayor Megan Barry running for the Democratic Party. As we move into our state races, in Tennessee Senate District 20, it's the incumbent Democrat Heidi Campbell running against Wyatt Rampey, who is the Republican Party nominee. In the Tennessee House of Representatives now, District 50. All right, this is incumbent Bo Mitchell running against Jennifer Frensley Webb, who is a Metro Council member currently and is running as a Republican in this race, despite council being a nonpartisan office. So that's incumbent Bo Mitchell against Jennifer Frensley Webb, who may or may not have had her entire family sign her petition for getting on the ballot. In Tennessee House District 51, you've got the incumbent Democratic Afton Bain. She has an opponent named Jeff Kettleson, who is running as an independent. In District 52, you've got the incumbent Justin Jones, a Democrat who's a member of the Tennessee Three, running against Laura Nelson for the second time. She is running as a Republican. In District 53, you've got the incumbent Democrat Jason L. Powell running against two challengers. Yog Nepal is running as a Republican, and Ruben Dockery is running as an independent. We've got some House districts that do not have competitive races, so if you are represented by Vincent Dixie, John Ray Clemens, Bob Freeman, Harold Love, or Caleb Hemmer, all Democrats. You don't have an alternative choice in those races. I suppose you could write in Kermit the Frog. And then in House District 60, the most closely watched district in the city, it is Democrat Shondell Brooks, a gun control activist, running against Chad Bobo, the Republican son of a bullet maker. Belle Meade, Forest Hills, Goodlettsville, you're all voting for city commissioners. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life. And then finally, we've got Mayor Freddy's Choose How You Move transit referendum, transportation improvement plan. I will not call it CHIME, but y'all, this is basically authorizing a 0.5% sales tax surcharge estimated to work out to about $70 per year for the average family that will help us fund $3.1 million in transit and traffic and sidewalk improvements. The mayor's office said that this funding will also unlock other funding for the future. The reason why they've gone with the sales tax is so that tourists will also help foot the bill. And the reasons not to vote for it are if you do not want an additional sales tax, and as our newsletter editor Margaret Kingsbury once reported, some people just don't like bike lanes. So there's your ballot rundown for November 5th. I hope you found that informative. Thank you. Back to you, Marie.
Wow, Whitney, you did that in 4 minutes and 27 seconds. That is record time. You just won the School's Talent Show.
Oh my God, it was the longest 4 minutes and 27 seconds of my life. Nicole, did I miss anything in there?
Who can say?
Oh, God.
And you did that while tap dancing.
Take me off the hot seat, Marie.
Folks, this is just
please
a treasure. Well, let's start next coming to the stage is our beloved Nicole Williams. We have not heard much about Metro Council updates from you in the last couple of weeks, and we're so thrilled to have you back. What have we missed? Any drama? And then also we have a preview of our next Metro Council meeting is going to be on November 7th. It's not on Tuesday the 5th because that's the election, so it'll be on the 7th.
So first of all, I do want to point out that I was available to speak about the last Metro Council meeting, and D. Patrick Rogers of the Nashville Scene, who happens to be my editor, stole my spot to talk about Best of Nashville.
Listen, Nicole, at least you appeared in Best of Nashville, unlike some podcasts we know, and we would like to celebrate you for both of your, I believe, second place finishes. You were second place as Best Columnist.
No, third.
That's impressive.
But more importantly, you were second place as Best Twitter, which is really first place because as we pointed out to Patrick, I was of the understanding that Weather Twitter was not going to get to run anymore. So as far as I'm concerned, you, my dear, are the best Twitter in Nashville.
Woo!
Thank you so much, Whitney. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that is an unwinnable category. And I did not know that before I set out on my Twitter journey. If I had, I might have made different choices.
Can you remind our listeners what your Twitter handle is?
Yes, it is at Startles Easily, because I do, in fact, startle quite easily. And yes, for Best Columnist, I was beat out by Holly McCall, who I think it's like her 4th year running as Best Columnist, which is incredible. And she's incredible. I really sort of idolize her at the Tennessee Lookout. She's the editor there and writes.
She was on to tell us about media literacy a couple months back, and it was terrific.
And then Betsy Phillips, a fellow columnist at the Nashville Scene.
Yes.
I promised that it was not rigged to my knowledge, but we did get 2 Nashville Scene columnists on there, and that was pretty awesome.
That's awesome. And Betsy's also been here on the show talking about her amazing book, Dynamite Nashville, which you have not read yet. You absolutely should. It's on my best of the year list.
I'm thrilled to be in the category of Best Columnist. That was new for me this year. Thank you.
You're the young hotshot on the scene, Nicole. Congrats to you.
Oh, wow. Thanks. Okay, so let's talk about what people actually want to hear about, which is the Metro Council. At the last meeting, as we've just discussed, I write a column for the Nashville Scene.
What?
The majority of my column, I know, right? This past meeting focused on yelling at council members over their decisions to abstain on controversial votes.
Right. And abstain means that they don't vote yes or no. They just say, I'm going to just sit here.
I'm here, but I'm not voting yes or no. Also, some council members just walk out of the room during a vote. So they're not on the board as yes, no, or abstain. So, some cowardly choices, I would say. And I have very strong feelings about abstentions, but council members will, I'm sure, continue to use abstentions to bow out of controversial votes.
Wait, why was abstention created? There's a legitimate reason for it, I would assume.
There is a legitimate reason, conflicts of interest, essentially. So if say your spouse owns a property that is getting rezoned, or you own a property that's getting rezoned, or you have a short-term rental, like you're not going to be able to ethically vote on legislation that directly affects you monetarily.
Right.
But council members increasingly in recent years have been using abstentions as a way to not make their position known on controversial votes.
What was the controversial vote that was up this time?
It was a settlement for a former arts staffer, Jonathan Sod, and it failed pretty spectacularly. Only 7 votes in favor, but 11 people abstained.
Wow.
Yes.
That feels like you should do the research and have an opinion, in my opinion. Is there ever a legitimate reason to take a walk?
Well, it depends on who you ask, and it depends on what you mean by legitimate. In my mind, we elect our council members to legislate, and the main way that they legislate is by voting. So a choice not to vote is a choice to be derelict in your duty. And so this is sort of a hill I've decided to die on, one of the many. And my life is full of dying hills. You know, some people would say there might be a legitimate political reason, like if you want to curry favor with a colleague because you need their vote on another important matter and you know that they're going to get upset if you vote yes or no, maybe you abstain. If the mayor has been putting pressure on you, or the mayor's office has been putting pressure on you not to abstain, then maybe you decide to take a walk so that you're not abstaining, but you're also not voting yes or no.
It's totally like, you can't see me.
Right. I can see all of you, just so you know.
I know. Yeah, I know you can. And I think they know that you can.
I hope they know.
Okay, anything to be expected on November 7th?
Yeah, so this is the first meeting of the month, which means there will be public hearings on a bunch of zoning bills. So if you look at the agenda and you see something in your area that you're interested in speaking on, come on down to the Metro Council, the historic Metro Courthouse.
I feel like you need background music when you say that, like a car dealership.
Yeah. Can y'all get me some jingle or something? Come on down.
Come on down.
There's also a resolution that got deferred at the last meeting to accept a grant from the Nashville Police Plus Public Safety Alliance. I don't know how that's spoken.
It could be and.
Could be, yeah.
But it's a plus sign.
But it is a plus sign.
And just to real quick catch people up on this is a group that is being funded by the police department.
No.
Oh, Fraternal Order of Police?
We don't know who their funders are.
Beacon Center?
We don't know.
Great. It's got mystery funding.
Yep.
And the goal is to help make cops and people friends.
Essentially, yes.
Neat.
You know, we do have a community review board that also was sort of voted on by the Nashville voters to help.
Well, I didn't vote on a review board. I voted on an oversight board, but I take your point.
Yes, to help with relations between the public and the police. But I guess the powers that be have decided that an external nonprofit would be a better way to bring the public and the police together. An external nonprofit with, by the way, a strategic plan that is not public. I asked to see the strategic plan and was told it's not a public document, with input from community members who we don't know who they were, funders, we don't necessarily know who all of the funders are, and they sort of popped up out of nowhere. And clearly, Chief John Drake is supportive of this effort because he is on their advisory board. So he is very bought into this concept, which is interesting given that he, to my knowledge, has not met with the director of the Community Review Board in over a year. But he's really bought into this, and they are offering the police a grant to purchase the Zen City platform, which sounds great, to measure the residents' safety perceptions and trust in law enforcement. It's like an ongoing survey platform. But what's weird about this is there are a lot of things, but the agreement to accept the funding contains some language that basically involves this nonprofit in the sort of interpretation of the survey data. Like, we're bringing in a nonprofit into the functions of our police department. These are people who don't work for the government, people who were not elected by us, people, not appointed by anyone in government, just a nonprofit that has now gained like quite a bit of access to our police department.
It honestly makes my head spin because every time, Nicole, you come on, you're like, and then we outsourced another thing to another third party that taxpayers are paying for, but then Metro Council people are just walking out and not voting on. Like, it doesn't.
Well, technically, the taxpayers aren't paying for this Zen City platform.
Zen City.
Yeah. If we accept the grant, it will be 100% paid for by this nonprofit.
Okay.
But, we do put a lot of money into the police every year.
Yeah.
And I would think that they would have already had some, it's 2024. Have they not been surveying residents to get feedback about their perceptions of the police and their environment? That's a little alarming to me.
I swear I just saw an entire study about do we feel safer or less safe or whatever. All we do is study ourselves here.
Yes.
And then give more money to the police and less money to schools and arts funding.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And moving on, there is a bill on second reading that is pretty contentious, and I actually wrote about it for the Tennessee Lookout. It's a bill about the participation of Metro employees in hate groups and criminal gangs. Initially, this was proposed by Councilmember Jeff Prepty, who was until recently a lawyer for the ACLU, and it was focused on MNPD and I believe Metro Fire. He's expanded it at the sort of urging of several council members and maybe some public input that we don't want to be, quote unquote, targeting the police by asking them not to participate in hate groups, I guess. So he's expanded it to include all Metro employees. He's changed the language a bit. And there is a substitute ordinance that Councilmember Jordan Huffman is proposing. And so I expect the discussion on that to be lengthy and perhaps contentious.
Do you feel, Nicole, in your expertise, that this is the sort of thing that's going to break down along the lines of sort of what we call the cop caucus versus everybody else?
This is a really tough one, Whitney. I think it's going to depend on how Councilmember Huffman's substitute fares. I think because Councilmember Prepty expanded the language and moved beyond just public safety organizations, I do think that he has set himself up well to get buy-in from people who are not just the Progressive Caucus.
Got it.
I think that offers some consolation to people who felt like they were being mean to the police.
Right.
And pretending like there's a problem that actually doesn't exist. And when I hear that, I say, well, if the problem doesn't exist, then what's the pushback to writing it down?
Yeah.
If it doesn't exist and it'll make people feel safer to know that it's not allowed, then what's the problem? Anyway, rhetorical question. I say no problem.
No, I agree. That seems like a very reasonable point of view. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you always for bringing so much of your knowledge to the show.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're actually going to hear from some readers of our Hey Nashville newsletter. And we're back, and I'm still here with Whitney Pasterick and Nicole Williams, and I'm excited about this. We actually, thank you to our Hey Nashville newsletter editor, Margaret Kingsbury. She asked our readers a specific question of why or why not do you vote? And we actually received a lot of responses. And so we're going to highlight a couple of those for you today to hopefully inspire you, or maybe not.
That's our goal.
That's our goal.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
We might inspire you. We maybe not.
Put it on a t-shirt.
I think you should set expectations low. That way you can only exceed them.
We received this response. This person is most excited to vote about the local stuff, mainly improving alt forms of mobility. More bike lanes, please.
Oh, well, that sounds
Heck
like that's
yes.
a vote right there for
That is
the choose how you move transportation
Improvement
program.
I know everyone's like, it's transportation, but it's on the ballot as transit.
Transit. Love it.
Transit. I've just been calling it the transit referendum. I refuse to call it chime. So,
Well, not if you say it like that.
chime. Bike lanes, we need them. That to me feels pretty straightforward. But again, as Margaret Kingsbury learned, some of our newsletter readers think that they're ugly.
Okay. All right. Well, this person says voting is a partnership. Voters are members of a group trying to steer local, state, and federal governments in specific directions. We don't all agree, so we must vote.
Nicole, that sounds like it could apply to the Metro Council.
Voting is a partnership. Okay, yeah, great. We don't all agree, that's for sure. And that's very touching. I don't really know what it means, but I love it.
I do too.
Well, this next person says, I believe people do not vote because the GOP has made it more difficult and individuals mistakenly believe their vote does not count.
Well, we are one of the most voter suppressed and disenfranchised states in the nation. We deny the right to vote to more people with a felony conviction than 49 other states, according to the Sentencing Project.
For president in Tennessee, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not going to matter if you vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump in Tennessee because Donald Trump is going to win Tennessee. That's how the Electoral College works. Until we fix that, it's not going to matter. But for some of these more localized races, like a state house race, those can be really close. And we've got some very competitive state house races on the ballot. Additionally, for the transit referendum, your vote will matter when it comes to local elections that are decided by the number of votes cast, not the Electoral College. Like, I know people feel like your vote doesn't count because of the president and the Electoral College. That's true. That's absolutely true. But please do vote because you could be the difference in some of these local races.
Well, this next one will make you feel all the feels. Let's see. This person has said, I have learned that voting also protects the rights of those who are unable to vote based on age, status, and other restrictions. Those folks deserve a peaceful, safe home of belonging just as I desire. My 14-year-old son would like me to add that he will be happy to help you determine who to vote for if you are not sure, as he is eager to exercise his right for representation that he is not yet allowed to access.
Aw.
I love that.
I know. I really love that.
Let's get that 14-year-old on the podcast. This is not my podcast, but I'm inviting that 14-year-old.
All right, let's invite minors on. I love it.
Absolutely. If you are that, we're keeping these anonymous for obvious reasons. But if you're the parent of that 14-year-old and you're listening for some reason, Nashville@citycast.fm. Nicole wants to talk to your kid. That sounded weirder than it needed to.
It did sound weirder than it needed to, but young voices matter.
Yes, absolutely. And this person seems like he has a lot to say. All right, we're going to end on this one last, why to vote or not to vote. This person is saying they do not vote. As a soldier, the decision is complex and personal. For me, there is some tension between my duty to serve and my personal responsibility of civic engagement. Being in the military, we have values ingrained in us: loyalty, duty, honor, sacrifice, and more. These values are essential to me as a soldier, but they can often create a feeling of disconnection from politics. My main reason not to vote comes from a desire to remain detached from partisan politics, to remain neutral. My job is to serve under any leadership, regardless of political affiliation. We defend the Constitution and the country as a whole, not a particular political party. An apolitical stance feels necessary to me. Voting sometimes feels like it could compromise that neutrality. My commitment to defending the United States doesn't change based on who holds office.
I think it's great that this person's commitment doesn't change based on who holds office, but one of those constitutional rights that we fight to protect is the right to vote. Your vote is sacred and your vote is secret. So I just want to remind everyone, no one is going to know who you voted for. You go up to the ballot box, unless you invite them in with you, unless you broadcast who you vote for, it's secret. And I think that we can hold both things. You can believe in something personally and feel like it's important to move the country or the state or the city in that direction. You can also understand that your duty to country and state transcends who wins an election. So I would encourage that person to vote. I respect anyone's decision to vote or not to vote, but a lot of people don't have the opportunity to vote. And so it kind of bums me out when people who do decide not to.
Yeah, I was talking to a fellow journalist, and I am in no way equating the work of journalists and the work of the people in our armed services, but they mentioned that they had a colleague who had never voted since getting into being a political journalist because they just didn't want anything to potentially compromise the way that they were covering things. And I think I agree with your point on that one too, Nicole, which is that it is possible to do a nice nonpartisan informational job while still feeling very strongly about the values that you want the people who lead you to uphold. Now, we are a nonpartisan podcast, as I'm fond of saying, because it's true. And it is going to be very interesting to see how it goes for us next week. We've certainly never covered a presidential election before because we didn't exist last time that there was one. And it is our duty to keep our emotions in check, our feelings in check, our opinions as far as partisan politics go in check. But I hope that you will all understand that we're certainly never going to back down from talking about the human issues, things that matter to our neighbors, the ways our neighbors are feeling hurt or unsafe or happy or joy. And so, yeah, we'll do our best next week. I'm excited.
Yes. And we do encourage listeners to tune in. We will be having some sort of results for you on that Wednesday.
Yes, you will wake up to some sort of results on Wednesday.
Brought to you by us.
Taped by us in my house.
Late at night.
Where we will or will not have been drinking with, I think we can preview our special guest with Council Member Sean Parker.
Which I am so excited about. How cool is that to be hanging out with my own Metro Council person the night I'm watching the results come in? So
this is a fully District 5 takeover of the podcast. Like,
are you feeling not represented? Do you want to come over?
I am feeling not represented. And of course, I always want to be there.
All right, come on by. Come on by.
That would be awesome. What an honor.
Fantastic.
Done.
I love it.
You heard it here first, folks. We're having a big old party.
Big old party.
And we hope you tune in on Wednesday.
Can I say one last thing before we go?
Yes, please.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay.
You're the boss.
Oh, dear. Well, before we go, I want to bring up an important Nashville issue that is, I hope, important to Nashvillians. Some of you may have been watching the World Series this past week. That is when the two top teams in American baseball play in a competition that's called the World Series solely because of Toronto.
Thank you for breaking that down for me.
And it was the New York Yankees versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. And one of the best players on the Los Angeles Dodgers is a man named Mookie Betts, who grew up right here in Nashville and attended John Overton High School, Marie.
Yeah, my school, go Bobcats.
He was in the outfield during Game 4 on Tuesday night in Yankee Stadium when a pop fly ball went near him and he ran over to the side past the foul line. It was a foul ball and he stuck his hand over the fence to catch it. And in the audience right behind him when he caught it were these two jabronis, I think I'm using that word correctly, who literally grabbed his wrist. One of them grabbed his baseball glove and physically removed the foul ball that he had caught from his glove. And they were like, that was bad enough. That incensed me enough. Baseball is a non-touching sport, baseball. Then we learned yesterday that one of the jabronis, I do think I'm using that word correctly, was originally from Connecticut, but now lives here in Nashville. ESPN reports his name is John Peters. John Peters, show yourself. I'm furious with you. How dare you? And how dare you, as a Nashvilleian, assault the Nashvilleian who is in the World Series?
I don't like this story at all.
John Peters, come on the podcast. Mookie Betts, come on the podcast.
Tuesday night.
Everybody.
I'm serious though, y'all. We talk so much about the way that the temperature has changed in this country and people feel permission to do more awful things now for some reason. I wonder why. But this is like beyond the pale to me as a lifelong baseball fan. It is not cool. It is not funny. It is not something you and your buddies should plan to do, which apparently they did. They had a plan. So no, it's like an insurrection on baseball.
I don't like that. But if they do want to come on the podcast, I would love to talk to them.
No, Marie, no. I am the boss.
I'll mediate. You guys.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Plan to vote.
Yeah.
Yes. Make your plan.
That's the only plans you should be making.
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh, nice, Nicole.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening. And yes, please go vote.
Everybody remember to drink some water and eat food this weekend and take your shoulders down from your ears.
Oh, thanks for that reminder, actually.
We're here for you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and our executive producer is Whitney Pasterek. Our producer this week is Joyce Tang. Our Hey Nashville newsletter editor is Margaret Kingsbury, and our theme music is by Prof Jenkins. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Doodles!